back in 2010 इतना concept नहीं था. When we developed Green Volunteer in Islamabad, there was no other youth-based organization. Donate कर जिसने 10 रुपए donate किए एक आंटी ने, and then at the same time she said while we were going away कि बेटा इसकी सिगरेट ना पी लेना. जिना सुपर boutiques were all next to Pizza Hut जो एक main area था. For us that was the niche market. So हम बाहर खड़े हो जाते थे वहाँ और हमें पता होता था जो आंटियों ने बाहर again कितने अमाउंट की लोन खरीदी होगी तो वो बाहर आके हमें तो आउट ऑफ गिल्ट हमें डोनेट तो कर देंगे. There's no retirement, there's no leverage, there are no timings, and it just goes on and on. The more you do, the more people expect from you.
So since then you have worked a lot on disability. So can you tell me a little bit more about the situation of disabled people within Pakistan? What are some of the common challenges that they face? What needs to be done, and what are you guys doing to address that situation? Assalamu alaikum everyone, welcome to the Ek Pakistan podcast. Today we have Mr. Rameez Mumtaz with us. He is an exceptional personality. He's worked in the development sector in the past and is currently leading now PDP, which is an organization focused on disabilities in Pakistan. So it's an honor to have you here, Rameez. Please let me know how do you felt being at FQE और आपको हमारा center कैसा लगा?
Assalamu alaikum Abdullah, thank you for having me. Okay, starting with the initial visit to the center, जो काफी मेरे लिए eye-opening थी. I knew about this, I knew about FQE, but I wasn't aware of the magnitude of the activities which take place here. So I had access to it digitally, but to visit this in person, in ground, was a completely different experience. So I'm motivated more after this to be a regular member here as we go along.
Inshallah, looking forward to having you here many times over. So let's start with your journey. I'd like to first of all know कि आप your early education और उसके बाद how did you actually get into volunteerism, because I think that was the basis of how you got into the development sector and eventually the work you did in the future. So basically, how did you get started in doing developmental work?
The actual story or the essence of all that got me here today goes back a long time ago. It goes back to 2005. 2005, I remember I was in school and there was an earthquake in the northern belt, which also affected Islamabad and collapsed the building at the time. That was, for most of us in Islamabad, that was the first time when there was any interaction for us with the calamity. So that led us to thinking about how we can actually do something for the society. I remember again, we were back in school, a couple of my friends, I'd always like to take their name, Ali Anis and Furqan Najib came to me. They asked me if I would like to volunteer along with them as they plan to go collect some donations for all those people who had been affected in Islamabad and also the northern area, especially the Kashmir belt. So we were, again, like I said, this was Ramzan, as we are sitting in Ramzan today. So I believe it was a good 19 years ago from today. Exactly, कितना time हो गया when I recall. So छुट्टी जल्दी हो जाती थी, हम निकलते थे. We were based in the school in F8, so we just went from door to door, stepping outside, just asking people for donations, went to markets, looked at other mechanisms, how we could generate, funding, other avenues to prospective avenues to look into. One thing led to another. And I remember at the time we collected 40,000 rupees. Those 40,000 might be a very small value, which I believe it wasn't at the time. Considered it might be a smaller value, but what we learned, and more than that, there was basically, it ignited the flame within us, which we didn't actually realize at the time. But 4 years on, there was another calamity. Again, unfortunately, our late history has been full of those. So 2010, there was a flood. My same friend Ali Anis contacted me and he said, "Do you want to do this again?" We were slightly more wiser, slightly more, smarter, we like to believe. And then we again thought that this time, let's innovate in different ways. Let's formulate a team. Let's get everyone on board. And we started standing out signals at the time. I remember initially we were all standing there just competing with each other, how much we could collect, each one of us. Then we decided to form some uniformity out there. I requested my sisters to we bought black shirts. I remember at the time, and I requested my sisters to write green volunteers on them
Mm.
with a green marker. So yeah, till date, those shirts are still with us as a souvenir, and we used to stand there on a good day at the signal. We used to collect around 75,000, which again at the time we thought was a
उस जमाने के साथ that's a lot
हाँ,
of money.
exactly. So उसके बाद ना बड़ी motivation मिलती थी. So from that, one thing led to another, and then we thought, okay, me and Ali were again sitting, and we just thought, okay, यार इसको इसको थोड़ा formalize करते हैं. There's so much interest. There are so many people who wanted to engage with us. So थोड़ा सा set up करते हैं. So yeah, so he was. I remember we were all football fans back then. So he said, let's make this Volunteers United. I said nothing to do. I was an Arsenal fan. He was a Man U fan. He said, I said nothing to do with United. So we have to come up with another name. So yes, I said Green Volunteers, and then we just came up with that name, and then people joined us, and it became a youth-based organization. And since then, so many people have actually used this platform to learn more about the social sector.
You guys are doing amazing work, because I remember, I think that was how we first came into contact as well. Many years ago, मैंने कोई post लगाई थी, because I do photography.
I recall
post
that.
लगाई थी कि anybody, क्योंकि रमजान drives और इफ्तारियां बहुत ज़्यादा लोग करते हैं, तो anybody who wants their work captured, so I can do that. So that's how we got.
This was actually Ramzan of 2018.
Yes.
You volunteered at one of our Dastarkhwans.
Yes.
You were there.
I think G9 में.
The G9 में
Metro bus के पास.
Metro bus के बाद the green belt थी. So yeah, that was the time. और बिल्कुल आपसे first time interaction उसी भी हुई थी. And since then we know each other in a lot of different capacities. बिल्कुल. So like I said कि initially वो काम कर रहे थे, volunteer work हो रहा था. Then we decided to focus more on the towards urban poverty, get more people engaged, set up platforms in university, launch a campus ambassadorship. So हमने फिर पहले तो हमने काफी दिन, जो मैं कहता हूँ, चंदा मांगा हमने रोडों पे, मार्केट्स में. Then we decided कि कुछ इसको थोड़ा सा revenue stream हम increase करना चाहिए. We came up with merchandising plans. We launched the Green Volunteer wristbands, जो I am Pakistan और Green Volunteers की कमांड लिखे होते थे. So again उनको फिर हमने internationally भी अपने ambassadors के थ्रू बेचा, locally बेचा, हर calamity उसमें होता. Then we launched notebooks in different schools, pens, many other again merchandise items which used to generate enough funds for us, but also at the same time engage young volunteers to be part of it.
That's great, mashallah. So how did you transition into, just as a volunteer into formally working in the development sector, and what was the first step that you took?
So at the time I was doing my ACCA when I initially started my volunteer work after school, obviously back in 2010. So I was doing ACCA. Then I again started working for a couple of companies in the finance department, one thing. But honestly, till a certain time when I was able to give volunteer work a lot of my free time, there was a lot of satisfaction. But as life grew and things became busier, I got married, had a family, then got into many other activities. So all of that concluded, I just thought my volunteer satisfaction and volunteer time was diminishing. And I had to encounter it one way or another. And a lot of people had been telling me from, again, previously, a lot of that I should venture into the development sector. I just didn't know when to. And so I had a conversation with myself, and then I had a conversation with my family, and I went to one of my mentors who I used to volunteer with. He was setting up a business development department for Chal Foundation, which became one of my main destinations. Chal Foundation, as the name Chal indicates, rehabilitates people with physical disabilities, makes them walk again by providing them artificial limbs, artificial devices, providing them other forms of mobility, braces, looking after their orthotic situation. So Chal became a destination, and I ended up setting up their business development department, and again, engaging more people, getting involved in the development sector, satisfying my inner self as well, but at the same time also realizing that now I could make an impact on a much larger scale. So again, it was a conversation I had with myself, and once I got through to me, then it was again, the canvas was pretty open.
I think that's a very important factor, specifically जो आप वो बात कर रहे हैं ना, inner satisfaction, वो एक nagging feeling होती है कि despite the fact कि आप maybe बहुत अच्छी कोई corporate job कर रहे हो, या you're making good money, or whatever you might be doing, वो एक feeling होती है कि यार maybe I can do something more, या फिर like I remember back in the day, like मैं जब यूनिवर्सिटी में था, I've done some really nice internships कहीं UNDP में या Senate में या फिर Marriott में. So I remember these like specific moments where I just, I'm doing something and I just stop for a second and I'm saying, hey, मैं क्यों कर रहा हूँ? Like इसका मेरा कोई like इसमें कोई personal मेरा से connection नहीं है. It doesn't mean anything to me. So I had a couple of those moments, or after that, I think right towards the end of my degree, I started thinking, yeah, man, like what do I want to do in my life? Because I had some seniors who had already graduated, जिनको मैं personally जानता था. Really amazing human beings, very smart people, and they got into the corporate sector या फिर like very high paying jobs, और वो शुरू में बहुत अच्छी excitement होती है, hashtag excited to join the jazz family, और वो picture लगाते हैं अपनी backpack और उस bottle और क्या कहते हैं power bank वगैरह के साथ. But after that, I it sort of like starts fading away, and
Exactly.
corporate slavery, and like I can understand after several months of that, it starts losing its charm, and because you're working in this like big organization and not really working towards a humanitarian goal or something. For some people, that's a very, very important factor within their lives.
True. Again, the reason for setting up Green Volunteers back in the day was to actually see if people want to test themselves in a philanthropic environment. So a lot of my volunteers eventually ended up forming their own organizations. So, but a lot of them didn't. A lot of them actually went towards the corporate sector because that was their true calling. So it's very exposure. First, the first step is actually to go through the process and then realize, again, like you said, the initial charms of corporate life are much different than the development sector. But again, everyone is playing a role. So we're all playing our different roles, and those are equally important as this one. It's just that if you're lucky, you get to satisfy your inner feeling. And I believe we both sitting across are kind of satisfied on that front.
Like, because not everybody gets the chance. There are some people, because I know there are a lot of people who karna chahte hain, but they're like, yaar, nahi, meri family is dependent. Yeah, they're like sort of sucked into that system and they can't escape. Yeah, they're probably in a like specific technical field. कोई for example engineer है या doctor है. Doctor का तो चलो खैर they inherently it's humanitarian work, but for example there's a software engineer या something like that. उनका काम से even remotely connected नहीं है, and they usually don't get enough time to actually do anything outside of their work.
True.
So for them वो जो एक nagging feeling है that remains, और काफी मसला बना रहता है फिर बाद में.
Exactly, because if you talk about doctors, तो बहुत ज़्यादा लोग इस profession में out of empathy ही आए होते हैं. But actually जो उनकी practical requirements होती हैं are at times very different. It is the same for a lot of people working in even development sector for that matter. So it actually depends कि आप development sector में भी what kind of work. Every work is impactful, but what is the impact you're trying to generate is very important for each one of us. So again, I want to be part of a field जिसमें there's, like I said, there's no retirement, there's no leverage, there are no timings, but there's no, again, flexibility आपकी personal level पे ही होती है, and it just goes on and on. The more you do, the more people expect from you.
So you've been like almost an expert in fundraising. So how did you actually start approaching it? आपने पहले बताया कि वो shirts बना के you guys to stand at signals, and like I can understand because I remember कुछ अर्सा पहले आप आए थे, you talked to some of our fellows and you told them a story कि वो शुरू में ना बड़ा like अजीब सा लगता है, थोड़ी सी वो shyness होती कि यार जाके हम चंदा मांग रहे हैं और कुछ आंटियों ने पता नहीं कोई like वो थोड़ी सी amount दी थी something. If you can recount that story, that would be amazing as well. How do you basically overcome that, and basically how did you address it?
So पहले तो like you said कि it's a fight within you. Fortunately, I was never a person who would be double-minded about it. So मेरे लिए बहुत easy था because from the start I knew I wasn't doing this for myself. So a lot of people none of us are actually doing it for ourselves, but some people are actually concerned about what others would think. So started very early on, जब हम proudly, when I said back in 2005 when I started collecting, तो उस वक्त भी I remember पहले हम गए, my school was in F8, so पहले हम गए 7 वाले घरों में जो बिल्कुल F8 के घर थे. So पहले 2-3 घरों में जब हमने बेल बजाई तो किसी ने बोला साहब घर पे नहीं है, किसी ने बोला बाजी घर पे नहीं है. So so we realized after the 3rd, 4th house कि ये तो सही नहीं हो रहा. They're thinking we're someone else. Then we actually, with all due respect to everyone, we actually went with houses, smaller houses, जिधर हमें लग रहा था हमारे at least ओनर के साथ डायरेक्ट या बिकॉज दिस वाज आफ्टर टाइम हाउसवाइफ के साथ डायरेक्ट इंटरेक्शन हो जाए या किसी हाउस मेंबर्स के साथ हो जाए, तो एटलीस्ट वी कैन शेयर दैट पिच विद देम. उसमें अच्छे रिस्पॉन्सेज आए, लेकिन बीच में ऐसे रिस्पॉन्सेज भी आते थे. आई रिमेंबर At the time, so I'm talking 2005, 10 रुपए भी बड़ी चीज होती थी.
Hmm.
So we're thankful to anyone who donated that. So लोग 10-20 रुपए donate करें. जिसने 10 रुपए donate किए एक आंटी ने, and then at the same time she said while we were going away कि बेटा इसकी सिगरेट ना पी लेना. So उसके बाद फिर हमने उनको, well literally I turned back and I said नहीं आप ये रख लें, because मतलब I don't want to cause any mistrust of any kind या ambiguity. तो वो नहीं वो she got guilty, नहीं आप रखो. मैंने कहा नहीं आप रखें. So इस तरह के एक्सपीरियंसेस बहुत थे. आई रिमेंबर उसी वक्त हम 2010 में हम एक मार्केट में कलेक्ट करें. दिस वाज अगेन अराउंड 14 अगस्त आई रिमेंबर. तो जो सारे हमारे बेसिकली पेंसिल सेलर, फ्लावर सेलर सारे होते हैं जो हमारे थीम्ड होते हैं, सीजनल होते हैं, वो उस टाइम पे बैजेस सेलर बन चुके थे सारे बच्चे जो लोकल मार्केट्स में होते हैं. सो हम हर एक को कह रहे थे उस वक्त. दिस वाज अगेन the old Islamabad. This is 2010. तो हमारा सेंटोरस मॉल डेवलप नहीं हुआ था. So the Jinnah Super boutiques were all next to Pizza Hut, जो एक main area था, which anyone from Islamabad would recall. So for us that was the niche market. So हम बाहर खड़े हो जाते थे वहाँ, और हमें पता होता था जो आंटियों ने बाहर again कितने अमाउंट की लॉन खरीदी होगी, तो वो बाहर आके हमें तो आउट ऑफ गिल्ट हमें डोनेट तो कर देंगी. सो वी यूज्ड टू प्ले ऑन गिल्ट. वी ऑब्वियसली वी हैड सम मतलब हमने उसमें भी एथिकल रिक्वायरमेंट्स रखी हुई थी कि कोई खा रहा होता तो उसको डिस्टर्ब नहीं करते थे, कोई परचेज करा तो नहीं करते थे. बट एट द सेम टाइम वी यूज्ड टू मेक श्योर कि वो जो उनका शॉप से लेकर गाड़ी तक जो रास्ता है ना, उसको हम जितना अनप्लेजेंट कर सके हम करें. सो that was the main aim. तो हम उनके पास जाते थे तो लेते थे. People used to donate very honestly. People were always very kindly supported us. लेकिन उसमें वो बच्चा मेरे पास आया, वो selling badges and he said कि हमने donation box बनाया हुआ था. Initially बाद में बड़े अच्छे donation box बन गए. Initially हम जो प्रिंटर या फैक्स के पेपर्स का जो बॉक्स होता था उसके हम डोनेशन बॉक्सेस बनाते थे. They used to be huge, easy to carry, और उनमें अच्छी खासी जगह होती थी ऊपर टू एक्चुअली पुट इन योर नोट्स और कॉइन्स. सो बच्चा हमारे पास आया एंड कहता है कि मुझसे नहीं मांगोगे. तो वी वर अगेन हम इमोशनल हो गए, नहीं जरूर मांगेंगे. एंड वी आर सो प्राउड कि उसने लिटरली एक 5 रुपीज का कॉइन जो है फ्लिक किया हमारे डोनेशन बॉक्स में. एंड देन ही रिप्ड अस ऑफ एंड सोल्ड अस पता नहीं हाउ मेनी बैजेस फॉर 50 or 100 rupees एट द टाइम. बट आई थॉट आई लर्न फ्रॉम हिम. आई सेड दैट वाज अ गुड मार्केटिंग स्ट्रेटजी जो उनकी तरफ से थी. इस तरह के many instances. I remember receiving a call from one of our volunteers कि मैं अपनी पॉकेट में डोनेट करना चाहती हूँ लेकिन मेरे पेरेंट्स नहीं करने देंगे. Because they would again back in 2010 इतना concept नहीं था. When we developed Green Volunteer in Islamabad, there was no other youth-based organization. Back in 2005 जब हमने स्टार्ट किया था, the only thing that stayed with us was कि हमें कोई प्लेटफॉर्म तो प्रोवाइड करे. पैसे हमने कलेक्ट कर लिए, हम पैसों का करेंगे क्या? Eventually we had to give it to the government or the military to actually take it to the northern areas जो operations हो रहे थे. So this time around, slightly wiser, we wanted to set up something जिसमें और लोग प्लेटफॉर्म में आ सकें, इन्वॉल्व हो सकें. एंड देन लाइक आई सेड उसके बाद तो कैंपेन्स की लाइन लग गई, बिकॉज पाकिस्तान में अनफॉर्चुनेटली कैलामिटी उसके बाद बहुत आई. देयर वाज फ्लड्स इन 2011, देयर वाज earthquake in 2014, then there was a Tharfasine. There were so many things, and even yesterday हमें पता है कि leading to COVID उस वक्त तक कितनी चीज़ें हमारी कवर हुई हैं. So अगेन डिफरेंट एक्सपीरियंसेस. इनिशियली जैसे मैं बताया, पहले हम जिन्ना सुपर की बुटीक्स के सामने खड़े होते थे, सिग्नल्स पे खड़े होते थे. बाद में हमने रियलाइज़ किया कि कोसार मार्केट अगर हम जाके खड़े हो जाएं, स्पेशली रमज़ान टाइम में अफ्तारी के बाद, सो एवरीवन विल एक्चुअली एंड अप डोनेटिंग. सो वही चीज़ जो पहले हमें एफर्ट सो पहले हमें एक हफ्ते में 40,000 जमा होते थे, फिर हमें एक दिन में 60-70, फिर हमें कोसार मार्केट 2 घंटे खड़े होके 60-70 1 लाख रुपीस कलेक्ट हो जाते थे. सो वी स्टार्टेड कॉलिंग इट एलीट बेगिंग. सो इस तरह की. सो एट द सेम टाइम ऑल ऑफ दिस स्टार्टेड अ प्रोसेसर विद इन मी कि किस तरह हम फंड रेजिंग को मोर अट्रैक्टिव बना सकते हैं, किस तरह हम लोगों को इन्वॉल्व कर सकते हैं उसमें, एंड हाउ कैन वी रीच आउट टू पीपल विदाउट, अगेन दिस इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट, विदाउट मेकिंग देयर लाइफ मिजरेबल. हम लोग, आई थिंक anyone who's fundraising, anyone who's asking for donation has to also realize कि हर एक को तंग नहीं करना. Just respect their privacy, respect their timings. Call कभी नहीं करनी, drop in a message, just let them know if they want to donate, they'll donate. But sometimes we cross that thin line thinking कि हम लोग flag bearers बन गए हैं of a certain cause or a certain disability or और हेल्पिंग आउट द सर्टेन ऑर्फेज, हम अच्छा काम करें. अच्छे काम में आप किसी के साथ कुछ बुरा नहीं कर सकते. मे बी दे आर इन एन इंपॉर्टेंट मीटिंग, मे बी दे आर नॉट इन द राइट फ्रेम ऑफ माइंड, मे बी दे आर नॉट इन द राइट फाइनेंशियल पोजीशन, और हम उनको सिर्फ बर्डन कर रहे हैं उनको का. सो इट्स वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट टू मेक श्योर के वी डोंट पुश anyone who's willing to help us to the extent कि वो इस पूरे process से एंटी हो जाए.
Definitely, that's important. So since then you have worked a lot on disability. So can you tell me a little bit more about the situation of disabled people within Pakistan? What are some of the common challenges that they face from an individual perspective, ranging from accessibility to access to public services, and what needs to be done, and what are you guys doing to address that situation?
Okay, here I'll talk about my recent disability experience. As I said, I was in Child Foundation. That was my first exposure to disability of this magnitude. I've always known disability. I have people who have been disabled in my close vicinity. I've actually known about assisting people with disabilities even before I could comprehend. But to have, firstly with Chal, have this exposure to actually make an impact on people's life who you don't know at all. It is very liberating. It is very satisfying. आपको दुआएं भी मिलती हैं, उसके अलावा आपको लगता है कि मैं कुछ अच्छा कर रहा हूँ. It's very action oriented. Leading to the organization I'm currently working with, running the operations in the North area, Now PDP, network of organizations working with people with disability in Pakistan. Now PDP is a disability inclusion initiative which caters to all 4 kinds of disabilities: hearing and speech, intellectual, physical and visual. And we do that through our programmatic pillars. हमारे programmatic pillars 3 areas में हैं: engagement, education and empowerment. So our main aim is to make PWDs, person with disabilities, financially independent, and we do that through, again, subdivision of a pillar, through providing Renomai guidance. इन लोगों को किसी ने guide ही नहीं किया होता. Then to give them the right to identity, शनाख्त as our second pillar. शनाख्त के through हम इनको provide करते हैं. For us, it takes us 3 to 4 days, maybe a week, to get our ID card made, our CNIC made. For people with special needs, people with disabilities, इनका CNIC SCNIC होता है, special CNIC. It takes them 8 to 12 weeks. Because first they have to prove their disability, then there are different offices where they have to register themselves. उसके अलावा every province has a different rule, a different timeline, a different department to deal with. So inter-provincial भी issues आ जाते हैं इसमें.
उनके offices भी ऐसे जगह पे होंगे कि कोई गांव में रहता है तो वो पहुंच भी नहीं सकता.
उससे बड़े शहर जाना पड़ेगा.
Especially जो जिसकी disability है वो तो already mobility के उसके मसले हैं, तो वो पहुंचेगा कैसे वहाँ पे?
Spot on. So उनके लिए हमने और मुश्किल किया हुआ है. और अगर वो पहुंच भी जाते हैं ना, तो एट टाइम्स सेकंड फ्लोर पे होगा, एट टाइम्स हेयरिंग एंड स्पीच के लिए इंटरप्रेटर नहीं होगा. सो उनके लिए देयर चैलेंज. इसलिए हमने बात की स्टैटिस्टिक्स की. इस वक्त पाकिस्तान में एज पर WHO स्टैटिस्टिक्स फॉर एनी डेवलपिंग कंट्री 16 to 70%, और पाकिस्तान 15% एस्टिमेटेड है ऑफ अ टोटल पॉपुलेशन. सो दैट्स मोर देन पॉपुलेशन ऑफ कराची. दैट्स ओवर 3 crore पीपल हु आर डीलिंग विद डिसेबिलिटी, जो हमें पता नहीं, हमारे सर्कल में है लेकिन हमें पता नहीं है.
Essentially invisible.
Exactly.
If I think about it, कि हमारे आसपास कितने लोग हैं, I'm pretty sure not just physically disabled, other disabilities.
Hearing, speech, visual, intellectual, but physical तो फिर भी हमें नजर आ जाते हैं. Intellectual तो लोग घरों में छुपाते हैं.
Stigma बहुत ज़्यादा है.
Again, there's so many taboos attached to it. So उनको अगेन राइट टू आइडेंटिटी देना, उनका CNIC बनाना, जो इस वक्त लाइक ऐसे 3 करोड़ लोग हैं. हमारे नादरा के डेटाबेस में सिर्फ 5 लाख लोगों ने सिर्फ SCNICs बनाए हुए हैं. सो दैट इज द फर्स्ट स्टेप ऑफ रिकग्निशन. वही उधर ही हम. देन वी वर्क ऑन एज अ थर्ड पिलर, वी वर्क ऑन फलाह, मोबिलिटी, असिस्टेड डिवाइसेस देना, हेल्थ केयर देना, ड्रिंकिंग वाटर देना, बेसिक नेसेसिटी देना, विच एवरीवन हैज अ राइट टू एक्सेस, बट इनको नहीं मिलते. एक तो वैसी मार्जिनलाइज्ड एरियाज में होते हैं, प्लस एज अ कम्युनिटी बहुत मार्जिनलाइज्ड है. सो एंड फॉर दैट आई जेन्युइनली बिलीव, अगर हमने बात करनी है फाइनेंशियल इंक्लूजन की, एम्पावरमेंट की, we have to go back to the root cause. First, provide them the basic assistance, the mobility, be it through a hearing aid, be it through a walking cane for a visual, or be it through a wheelchair or prosthetic limb for a physically disabled. So once we do that, then only we can expect कि अगर कोई पहले तो स्कूल तो हम एनरोल कर लें, लेकिन स्कूल एनरोल करने के लिए पहले वो स्कूल तक पहुंचे तो. सो दैट इज द फर्स्ट स्टेप. इसके अलावा फॉर एजुकेशन एज अ फोर्थ पिलर वी वर्क ऑन 2 पैरेलल स्ट्रीम्स. वन इज स्पेशल चिल्ड्रन स्कूल जो हमने सचावल में, वन ऑफ द मोस्ट मार्जिनलाइज्ड एरियाज ऑफ सिंध एंड ऑल्सो पाकिस्तान, उधर में स्टेट ऑफ आर्ट स्पेशल चिल्ड्रन स्कूल बनाया हुआ है जो विच इज केटरिंग टू 170 स्टूडेंट्स. इसके अलावा वी हैव एन इंक्लूजन एकेडमी विच इज बेस्ड इन आवर हेड ऑफिस इन कराची. बट नाउ वी आर एडवोकेटिंग ऑल ओवर द कंट्री फॉर मेकिंग एजुकेशन इंक्लूसिव फॉर ऑल. मेजर डिसेबिलिटीज हमें समझ आती है, मुश्किल हो गए, बट देयर सो मेनी पीपल हु आर गोइंग थ्रू माइल्ड डिसेबिलिटी जिनको हमें इंक्लूसिव एजुकेशन में डालना पड़ेगा. While special children's schools are great and maybe the need of a lot of these children with disabilities, but at the same time, when we talk about a holistic environment for them, we have to make it inclusive by including them. So we're encouraging schools to be advocating for schools to actually make their policies inclusive for children with disabilities to be part of the setup. And that moves us to our empowerment pillars, which is basically our vocational training, हुनर, in-house vocational training in market relevant areas जो हमने बड़े craftily research की हैं, leading to our second pillar रोजगार through corporate companies जिनके साथ हमने liaison की है, profiling की है, स्टेट बैंक ऑफ पाकिस्तान के साथ co-author की है policy to ensure के 2% workforce is all PWDs for all banks. Again, SCCP is also working on it. Uski implementation pe we were advocating for it. All big companies, all provinces have their own percentages. So if these policies are there, some of them are implementing it. The rest we are ensuring, we are assisting, we are profiling for them. We are advocating for the rights of PWDs कि उनको रोजगार दें, because again, financial independence जब इनका खुद अपना बोझ उठाएंगे तभी माशरे में आ सकेंगे, इंक्लूड हो सकेंगे, बाशमुल पाकिस्तान की तरफ हम लोग जा सकेंगे. एंड ऑल्सो वी वर्क ऑन खुद मुख्तारी, सेल्फ एंटरप्रेन्योरशिप. हमारी कोशिश ये होती है, बहुत ऐसे इलाके हैं, बहुत लोग पहले तो पैशनेट होते हैं, डोंट वांट टू डू अ जॉब, दे शुड बी फोर्स्ड टू डू जॉब, दे शुड बी एबल टू डू व्हाट दे लाइक. सो उनको हम उन इनिशिएटिव्स में हेल्प करते हैं. उसके अलावा देयर मेनी एरियाज जहाँ जॉब्स अवेलेबल ही नहीं है. वेरी ऑनेस्टली डिसेबिलिटी हमारी छोटे शहरों में, गाँव में ज्यादा है. जॉब्स हमारी आउट ऑफ मेजर सिटीज अवेलेबल ही नहीं है. एम्प्लॉयमेंट है नहीं. एग्जैक्टली. सो उनके लिए हम कोशिश करते हैं कि रेट्रोफिटेड रिक्शाज हों, उनके लिए हम ठेले कार्ट लगवा सकें, या एनी अदर थिंग दे आर पैशनेट अबाउट. वी वांट टू एनकरेज देम विद दैट. सो दिस इन अ नटशेल इज our contribution, and one of my reasons of joining this was I just thought that now it's time to make an impact on a much broader scale, look after all disabilities and ensure that हमने mobility दे दी है. What is next? How do you want to see yourself progressing in a personal capacity, and how do you want to help people in a professional capacity?
That's amazing. I really like the entire process and flow के आप पहले first of all general awareness, ताकि उनको कम से कम idea तो हो कि यार what are your rights, what are the resources out there जिनको आप avail कर सकते हो. फिर general education, giving them prosthetics if they require, then training them, and then connecting them with opportunities, whether it's a job or an entrepreneurial opportunity, so they can actually become self-reliant and become independent of everyone. Because otherwise यही होता है, especially जो गाँव वाले इलाके हैं, क्योंकि जिन एरियाज में मैंने भी काम किया है उसमें यही है कि अगर फॉर एग्जांपल देयर इज अ डिसेबल्ड पर्सन, फिजिकल डिसेबिलिटी है, तो वो बेचारा एक ही जगह पे पड़ा रहेगा. इट्स देयर नेग्लेक्टेड, देयर स्टिग्मेटाइज्ड, देयर आइसोलेटेड, और कोई उनको पूछने वाला नहीं होता. और अगर किसी की मेंटल डिसेबिलिटी है उसको तो लाइक इवन आसपास के लोगों से लोग छुपाते हैं, एंड वो वहीं पे रहते हैं. दे डोंट हैव एनी काइंड ऑफ सोशल या फिजिकल मोबिलिटी तो दूर की बात है, सोशल मोबिलिटी नहीं है. विद इन देयर ओन फैमिली दे आर वेरी नेग्लेक्टेड. एंड उनका खुद बंदा सोचे कि यार अगर आप एक चारपाई पे पड़े रहते हैं द एंटायर ईयर, और आपको बाथरूम भी जाने के लिए कोई बंदा साथ लेकर आता है, एंड इवन देन यू आर नेग्लेक्टेड एंड आपकी बुरी हालत है, तो हाउ वुड यू फील? आई फील लाइक दिस इज एन अमेजिंग वर्क दैट यू आर डूइंग. एंड प्लीज टेल मी मोर अबाउट आप किन किन सिटीज में काम कर रहे हैं, एंड some new initiatives that you've taken.
For sure. Thank you for asking. Our head office is in Karachi. That's where we basically advocate. That's the start of our advocating. A lot of our engagement centers are in Sindh at this moment. That's where we have ventured into the most at this time. Our special children's school our CD, Center of Disability Inclusion, is based in Sajawal. As I've already mentioned, we have presence in Hyderabad, many other districts of Sindh. We have our offices in Islamabad, Rawalpindi. We're setting up in Lahore at this moment. Next is Peshawar. But having said that, even if we do not have ground presence or center of engagements in a particular city, we do have interventions from there from time to time. For example, like you said, banks की आपको example दी. When banks want to make 2% PWDs, person with disabilities, part of the workforce, to fulfill that number, they want those numbers to be fulfilled in many different small cities, small districts. Banks तो हर जगह हैं. So in that case, our teams make sure कि हमारी database में, again, KP के small town से भी बंदे इंक्लूडेड हों, पंजाब की मेन स्ट्रीम सिटीज से भी हों, सदर्न पंजाब के एरिया से भी हों, सेम गोज फॉर सिंध, सेम गोज फॉर बलूचिस्तान, टू इंश्योर कि at least the opportunities of inclusion are equal across Pakistan. Again, so some of the other ways, एक तो होगी PWDs की capacity building जो हम कर रहे हैं. हमारे what is very important for us, very essential, is capacity building of organizations. For that, we have multiple services that we offer, such as sensitizing the people who actually deal with PWDs. PWDs को हमने hire तो करवा दिया, but it is no good unless the people who are dealing with it, who are
this organization को receive करना है, वो if they're not prepared to facilitate them, तो that won't be helpful.
Exactly. तो उनके लिए हम कोशिश होती है हमारी trainings हो, sensitization हो, sign language options available हो, so that जो I am inclusive feel भी तो करें, welcome feel करें, accessible करें. दो किस्म की limitations होती हैं. All of us are disabled in one way or another, from wearing glasses to using a car to get from one place to another. We all require assistance. So the main aim for that is कि हम एक तो होती है attitudinal, जो हमारे अपने attitude की वजह से हम लोग ने disable किया होता है environment को, and दूसरा the other one is environmental. कि environment हमने ऐसा provide किया होता है कि those people, for example, it's as simple as that कि हम किसी को नौकरी दे देते हैं, ऑफर दे देते हैं, लेकिन हमने उसे ऑफिस में बुला लिया है, ऑफिस फर्स्ट फ्लोर पे और लिफ्ट नहीं है. सो या लिफ्ट है तो लिफ्ट बंद हो जाती है, बिजली है बट उसका कोई बैकअप ऑप्शन नहीं है, जनरेटर नहीं है. सो हम उनके लिए खुद ही मुश्किल करते हैं. या हमने एक हियरिंग एंड स्पीच इम्पेयर्ड बेनिफिशरी को हमने एनरोल तो कर लिया है, लेकिन देयर इज नो वन हु कैन ट्रांसलेट और हैव अ कन्वर्सेशन विद हिम, तो उनके लिए नेचुरली बहुत मुश्किल हो जाएगा. सो again, it's very important to firstly sensitize yourself to their needs, their requirements, and then come up with an inclusive policy जिसमें वो भी involved हो, आप भी involved हो, and then judge them on their performance. Make it a level playing field, and then see if they are able to perform or not, because we form our own opinion based on, again, making someone's ability into disability. So one of our taglines is that we are all apart but not apart. So that's our main aim.
नहीं, that's a very important factor, because काफी सारी corporate entities जो I think just for pictures or PR वो लोग hire तो कर लेते हैं, but at the same time they don't facilitate them in a way that's required. क्योंकि अब for example there's like a big telco company, वो 2% या 3% या फिर like for whatever the percentages they hire the people, but if they are facing challenges on a daily basis और फिर बाद में कहें कि नहीं यार इनकी तो परफॉर्मेंस उस तरह की नहीं है, हम इनको क्यों हायर करें, ये है वो है, they start challenging the decisions of the government कि आपने ये पॉलिसीज क्यों पास की हैं, हम लोगों को रख लेते हैं, बाद में हमारे मसला बनता रहता है, तो फिर then that's not going to translate into the same results that they're expecting.
Very true, very true. One of the main reason is कि हम जो हायर भी कर लेते हैं ना, वो भी out of empathy hire कर रहे हैं, या adherence to policies कर रहे हैं. Again, that's not good enough, because again inclusivity in our thought process नहीं आ रही. We have to first hire them for the right reason, pick out the right roles for them. If I talk about a lot of these PWDs, personally, they are very good at monotonous tasks which many of us aren't. We get bored of them, they don't. So they take it to the next level. So again, we have to look at jobs and roles for them, give them a fair chance, and then see if they fall on merit. Jobs भी मिलती हैं तो at times people are just happy, हमने hire कर लिया, office ना भी आए तो ठीक है. That just kind of shatters their self-esteem even more, and that will not lead to their growth. अभी तो आपने job दे दी, 6 महीने बाद आपकी जगह वो कहीं किसी और ऑर्गेनाइजेशन में जाएंगे, उनका एक्सपीरियंस ही नहीं होगा. सो वी इंकरेज ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस, आप इंटर्नशिप्स भी देते हैं, कोई मसला नहीं है, लेकिन मेक इट अ लर्निंग एक्सपीरियंस फॉर देम. ट्रीट देम एज नॉर्मल, जस्ट प्रोवाइड देम द रेलेवेंट एक्सेसिबिलिटी. उसके बाद ट्रीट देम एज नॉर्मल एंड मेक श्योर कि आप उनसे अपना काम भी करवाएं. So that is what we are advocating for. That is what we are pitching to everyone around us, and that is what we are at this moment receiving very good results for it as well.
I'd like to speak a bit more about disability among women and how it maybe disproportionately affects women, especially within rural areas. And how's your experience been in that regard?
बिल्कुल. Women with disabilities, WWD, are double marginalized for the simple reason. Again, we all know the women-centric issues that fall in our society, especially in remote areas. And secondly, if you're carrying a disability along with it, तो बिल्कुल ही आप further taboo हो चुके हो. And again, disability जबकि काफ़ी लोग इसको blessing भी समझते हैं, और हमें पता है कि इनकी protection comes from the Almighty. हम बहुत इसमें लोग हम ऐसे भी हैं जो इसको अल्लाह की आजमाइश भी समझते हैं. So when we talk about women with disabilities, उनके लिए तो फर्दर मुश्किल है. Starting with the pressures that come with it at initial age कि आपने मेन घर की चीज़ें सीखनी है, वो आप नहीं सीख सकते. एजुकेशन आपके लिए नहीं है, आप बाहर जाओगे तो क्या फ़ायदा है. शादी होनी है, आपने फैमिली बनानी है, वो सारी चीज़ें इनटू इफ़ यू लुक एट इट फ्रॉम अ डिसेबिलिटी कॉन्टेक्स्ट, तो आपने उनको इनिशियल एज पे ही एलिमिनेट कर दिया, डिसाइड कर दिया कि दे आर नॉट एलिजिबल फॉर ऑल दीज ऑप्शंस. सो सोचें कि एट एन अर्ली एज ही बच्चे को आपने, इफ़ यू हैव 2, 3, 4, 5 चिल्ड्रन, आपने एक को साइड पे कर दिया, बिकॉज यू नो कि हमारी कोई भी इन्वेस्टमेंट इनमें नहीं चली जाएगी, बिकॉज इट इज फ्रॉम पेरेंट्स पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू इट हैज एक्चुअली बिकम संक कॉस्ट. अब पेरेंट्स नहीं है, उनको बाहर नहीं लेके जा रहे, कुछ नहीं हो रहा है, तो सोसाइटी भी वैसी रिएक्ट करेगी, फैमिली भी वैसी रिएक्ट करेगी. जितना छिपाओगे लोग भी उतना सस्पिशियस होंगे, लोग भी वही समझेंगे. सो ऑल इन ऑल it becomes a major task for them. That is why we ensure कि हमारी trainings में भी 30 to 40% women ratio हो, हमारी jobs में भी at least 30 to 40% women turnover हो. The main reason ये है कि there is no inclusivity without diversity. So we like to club diversity and inclusivity together, and one of our main aims is कि side by side हम इनको लेके चलें.
Perfect. तो जो आप बता रहे हैं कि कैपेसिटी बिल्डिंग सेंटर्स हैं, उसमें व्हाट काइंड ऑफ स्किल्स डू यू टीच देम फॉर बोथ मेन एंड वुमेन?
बिल्कुल एक्सेलेंट. लाइक आई सेड कि हम उनको इन हाउस वोकेशनल ट्रेनिंग्स करते हैं बेस्ड ऑन आवर ओन रिसर्च ऑफ व्हाट वी थॉट would formulate a good skill set in a corporate entity. A lot of these people are, especially hearing and speech impaired beneficiaries or candidates, are graduates. But ग्रेजुएट्स के साथ ना हमें बहुत लिमिटेड एक्सपोजर होता है एक्चुअल वर्किंग, बहुत लिमिटेड एक्सपोजर होता है ऑफ कंप्यूटर वर्किंग और डिजिटल वर्किंग. सो व्हाट वी टीच देम इज computer operating to start off with, because any organization would like to take someone who has the relevant soft skills. Data entry, because that again it creates a lot more job prospects for them. Graphic designing, because marketing, advertising, and even every company these days has their own department which creates some opportunities for them. Basic English language courses. Again, this is all for white collar. For blue collars, doing sewing, stitching, hospitality trainings, enrolling them into many other service organizations where they could just play a role. Could be a blue collar role, but at the same time lead to employment. Utility stores, cashiers, call centers, even for visually impaired people, because call centers, again, they've all their life they're communicated through voices and words. So to make their strength into their profession is the easiest way out of this.
Perfect. And I think from an entrepreneurial aspect as well, मेरी अम्मी काफी दफा देखती हैं कि यार फॉर एग्जाम्पल सिग्नल पे कोई मांग रहा है, वो कहती हैं कि मतलब जितने मर्जी इसकी डिसेबिलिटी है, ये कम से कम ये कर सकता है कि औरतों की कढ़ाई वगैरह कर ले. एंड दैट इज समथिंग कि अगर फॉर एग्जाम्पल इस तरह के 10 लोग भी हैं, इफ दे कम टुगेदर एंड उनको अगर फैसिलिटेट किया जाए, तो दे कैन एक्चुअली हैव अ वेरी सक्सेसफुल बिजनेस एंड दे सपोर्ट ईच अदर, और उसके थ्रू दे कैन गेट अ लॉट मोर अपॉर्चुनिटीज एंड क्लाइंब द सोशल लैडर दैट वे.
जी जी बिल्कुल। इस पे हमारे मल्टीपल प्रोजेक्ट्स एट दिस मोमेंट चल रहे हैं, स्टार्टिंग विद सहेली प्रोजेक्ट विच एक्चुअली empowers women with disabilities, one leading to another, community leaders. We again हमारी outreach हमारी जो होती है, that is going from one UC to another, ensuring कि हम वहाँ खुद ही जाके हाउस टू हाउस इंश्योर करें कितनी डिसेबिलिटी है, कितने पीपल विद डिसेबिलिटीज हैं जो घर में है जिनका हमें पता नहीं है, बिकॉज very honestly the statistics of Pakistan at this moment were 2013 में disability was at 2.48%, 2017 में जब सेंसस हुआ it came down to 0.5%. So कभी किसी ने क्वेश्चन नहीं रखा, no one actually asked this question, किसी के लिए प्रायोरिटी एरिया नहीं है. So having said that, हमारे इस वक्त 15% लोग पॉपुलेशन इज कंसिडर्ड टू बी पर्सन विद डिसेबिलिटीज, लेकिन हमारे ऑफिशियल स्टैट्स में इट्स एट 0.5%. सो इतना डिफरेंस है. सो उन सबको कॉन्टेक्स्ट में लेकर हमारी कोशिश होती है लोकल कम्युनिटीज को इंगेज करें, फीमेल्स को हम कम्युनिटी लीडर्स बनाएं, थ्रू देम हम जितना भी एडवोकेट करें, पर्सन विद डिसेबिलिटीज को हम कम्युनिटी लीडर्स बनाएं, बिकॉज हम जितना भी एडवोकेट करें इट हैज टू कम फ्रॉम one of their own.
Yes.
And once it does that, it has a very different response. So again, in-house हम इनसे crafts भी बनाते हैं, हम इनसे क्लॉथ पे भी काम करवाते हैं, सुइंग स्टिचिंग वगैरह इन सब चीज़ें कराते हैं, एंड देन we have made our own social enterprise out of it by the name of शामिल, जिसमें हमारी कोशिश है कि इनके प्रोडक्ट्स ही सेल हो. So we want to, before anyone else, we want to provide them that platform of generating from them own, looking after themselves and making themselves financially independent.
क्या नाम बताया आपने?
शामिल is our social initiative जिसके through they end up making a lot of handicrafts, tote bags, different designs, which are again at times shared with our stakeholders, at times given to all our best clients who do the most hirings, and at times advocated and publicized at events where log aate hain and they can buy again the same things from people made by persons with disabilities.
Perfect. I think I still have a rickshaw जो आपके predecessor थे, उन्होंने मुझे, हमारा एक इवेंट हुआ था, we had an event in कुराल, वहाँ पे हमने मेडिकल कैंप कराया था, तो after that they gave those to us. So do you guys have like an outlet or something जहाँ पे people can buy this?
We publicize these materials from time to time in different events, such as जितने भी हमारे again handicraft festivals होते हैं, different kinds of festivals होते हैं, जितने भी events होते हैं, we ensure कि we participate in them and we provide this avenue, and our office is in itself, which is our walk-in office or a disability center in itself, is an outlet for people to come, not only look to purchase these outlets, but also look at the essence behind it.
I think इसमें एक बहुत अच्छा आइडिया ये भी हो सकता है कि maybe we can set up a very nice Shopify store जिसके ऊपर we can put a catalog of like 100 items or something like that, और में से इन्हीं में से 2-3 लोग that are overseeing the entire operations. I feel like that could be a very good enterprise for some.
We're very near to having our national launch on this, and it should be as soon as the next couple of months.
Nice.
And that will be a combination of all those ideas that you have shared with us.
Awesome. You guys already thought about it?
It's like I said, it's literally upon us at this moment.
Let me know if you guys need any help with that. Perfect. Anything else you would like to share with us? Any final messages, whatever you'd like?
Again, like how I started initially, I would request everyone, this is Ramzan time again, I would request everyone to just go through the activity of philanthropy. हम सब, मुझे पता है, बहुत ज़कात देते हैं, डोनेशन देते हैं, सब कुछ करते हैं, but just go out there, out of your comfort zone, do something as simple as stand at Maghrib time, stand on the road and distribute iftari to 5 to 6 people randomly, or just visit an orphanage and sit with them and have an iftari, or put a stall, a ruafza stall outside your own house and ensure जो लोग late हो रहे हैं उनको आप एक drink दे रहे हैं. Just small acts of kindness, and see the spark it ignites in you, and the small acts will actually lead to something way bigger, and next Ramzan you will be the one guiding us on what to do.
Inshallah. And I feel like that's the, लोग बहुत ज़्यादा जैसे कहते हैं ना, इसको कहते हैं कि यार नहीं ये तो सब लोग कहते हैं, या फिर ये तो बहुत पॉप कल्चर हो गया कि हाँ लोगों को रोज़ा पिला रहे हैं या इफ्तारी खिला रहे हैं, this is too common, मैंने कुछ different करना. But I feel like for starters, if you just start with that, उससे ये होता है कि आपको you get an insight into how the process works and how people react, और उससे जो आपको एक fulfillment मिलती है ना, that's going to get something started, or maybe you can identify some factors. कि अच्छा मेरे पास ये लोग आए इनके ये मसले थे, this needs to be addressed, and maybe you can start something bigger in with regards to that. So I feel like whatever the first step is, जो भी आप पहला कदम ले सकते हैं वो आपको लेना चाहिए, and you can play your part in a much bigger problem. So thank you so much, Rameez, for being here. It was an honor hosting
Thank
you at
you.
FQE. Inshallah, we'll have you here again, inshallah.
Inshallah.
Or please follow us for more podcasts. We will have more experts at Ek Pakistan, inshallah, in the many weeks to come. So thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for having me over. Thank you, and inshallah, looking forward to my next visit already.